Hello and welcome to episode 143 of Retro Encounter, RPG Fans Weekly Podcast. I'm Mike Sollosi and I'm your host for today, and we are kicking off something I've been planning, or we've been planning for months, 4 episodes in a row of all about the Lunar series. Lunar, Lunaire, you know what, I don't care, but here we are, and joining me is first, Rob Fenner.
Anyway, yeah.
I
just really wanted to play that horrible Sega CD theme song.
I feel
Hi,
deprived.
thank you for having me.
I feel deprived for not playing the Sega CD version, so I've missed that. But
yeah,
we'll
Vic Ireland got his friends to sing.
Oh man, we'll have to talk about that in a few minutes. But joining Rob and I is one of our community managers, Leona McCallum.
Hi.
Leona, you are my favorite type of podcaster on Retro Encounter because this is your first time playing any of the Lunar games. Is that correct?
It is. I've never played this series at all.
Excellent. I really like having fresh perspectives discuss games alongside more veteran perspectives, so I am overjoyed to have you joining us. But before we talk about the games themselves, I want to go a little bit into why we're doing this month of episodes. And in part of that, we've been planning this since the beginning of 2018. Because, listener, you may or may not know, RPG Fan used to be a Lunar fan site called LunarNet, and it was founded in 1997, late 1997, and was rebranded as RPG Fan about a year and a half or 2 years later. And one of the founders of RPG Fan, who's no longer with the website, is still running a new version of LunarNet. So, unusually, Lunar is sort of endemic to RPG Fan completely, and since we're celebrating RPG Fan's 20th anniversary this year, we decided to have at least part of those celebrations involve Lunar, and after talking to other editors on the website about it, we decided to do an entire month of Lunar episodes on Retro Encounter, with 2 episodes for Lunar the Silver Star and 2 episodes for Lunar 2 Eternal Blue, and this is the first of those 4. So, and I don't remember exactly how early it was planned, but for a while we just couldn't decide on the month, and it eventually landed on July. So, starting with you, Rob, what is your background playing Lunar?
Oh boy, Lunar was kind of the killer app of the Sega CD when I was a kid. There wasn't anything super impressive when that console first dropped, but I remember seeing that Lunar, Snatcher, and weirdly, Annette Futatabi, the third game in the Ernest Evans / El Viento series, which was bad. But those 3 games really excited me about the prospect of the Genesis's CD add-on. And
yeah, that Annette game sounds like the Lepidus of that triumvirate.
Pardon me?
Sorry, 12 credits of classics at university. Can't help. Sometimes I can't help myself.
So this was the first working designs game I played. I think it was probably the first JRPG I played with voice acting and the little very limited anime cutscenes, and it felt like I was playing one of my Japanese animes. I was pretty blown away by it. At the time, it was an incredibly difficult game.
And this is shortly after it came out in the early mid-90s?
Yeah, so it would have been, I think, 93 or 94 was when I got it.
Still an incredibly difficult game.
We'll get there.
You don't know how easy you have it. But yeah, I played the hell out of the Sega CD game. It's one of the Sega CD games that I've held on to because I had to sell a bunch that I really loved to afford university. But when it came to box up the Lunar games, I was like, oh, you are both staying with me. So I have very, very fond memories. I rented the PlayStation version. I should have bought it when I had the chance. I did not. I've played most of the remakes. I played the Game Boy Advance version, which I was not impressed with, and now I am playing through Silver Star Harmony for the PSP, which is terrible.
That's disappointing because I'm playing the PS1 versions. They're the only ones I've played. I'll get to that in a second, but it's not easy to get a hold of these games. The PS1 discs were uncommon or rare when I got them, and they're not available as PS1 classics on any of the Sony services. So when it had a PSP remake, I was, my reaction was positive. It's like, all right, more people will be able to play Lunar. Maybe this will be the definitive version of Lunar 1. but it sounds
I
like that's
think
not the case.
I think I like it less than I like the Game Boy Advance port.
Oh, yikes.
So, yeah.
and that's Lunar Legend, which I'm aware of but have not played.
Oh.
But Leona, now you mentioned before this is your first time playing any of the Lunar games, but were you at least aware of them before semi-recently, or what was your impression of them before you started playing?
My impression of them, I wasn't aware of them really. I knew they existed. I knew us as RPG fan was Lunar.net, but that didn't mean anything to me. I'd never had any friends talk about Lunar. It was a non-entity as far as I was concerned. But so I really did go into this series entirely blind.
All right, and I guess I'll talk about my experience briefly before we get into the game itself. I was not aware of them growing up since I'd never really owned any Sega system other than a Dreamcast. So, I mean, I went from NES to SNES to PS1 to PS2 was basically my gaming lineage. But when I had a PlayStation in the, I want to say, early 2000s and started getting into lurking around gaming forums, including RPG Fan, the Lunar games came up. Maybe not, all the time, but often enough that I was at least curious, and a lot of people seem to like these PS1 ports. So when I started having some disposable income from jobs and whatnot, when I was in high school in the early 2000s, I did find a copy of Lunar Silver Star Story Complete for PS1 at a thrift store and picked that up, and started playing that when I was 17 or 18. And partway through it, I'm like, all right, I definitely want the sequel to this as well. And I ended up seeking out Lunar 2 Eternal Blue Complete for PS1 on eBay, I think. Or I definitely got one in the store and one online, and I'm pretty sure that's the order that it happened in. So I played them then, basically back to back, probably in the same month. And it's been 13 or 14 years. So... I thought that it has definitely been enough time and definitely a good occasion to replay them, so I enthusiastically supported the idea of doing a month all about Lunar for Retro Encounter.
I'm excited about this month.
Oh, good. Yeah, because again, we're going to try to do 2 episodes for each game. The panel might not be exactly the same because I know that there's other RPG fan staff interested in playing Lunar with us. So I think the panel will probably be expanded a little bit for Lunar 2. But for now, it's the 3 of us discussing Lunar 1. So it starts out with I think a very sort of innocent and earnest beginning. I would say because it's you have 3 friends in a tiny town in this vaguely Central Asian or Northern European styled area.
Scandinavian.
Yeah, the clothes that the people wear, they remind me of like of Central Asian nomad tribesmen.
Yeah, it's very kind of like Genghis Khan-y.
Yeah, or also like the way they're wrapped up, especially in Berg where it's cold, like a Scandinavian person, like from the I don't know 1800s, like Rob suggested. So it's an interesting look already that definitely doesn't seem like they're part of they're part of a modern setting, but also a different fantasy setting than your Lord of the Rings dwarves and elves. But you start out in this remote area, Caldor Isle, with 3 childhood friends, one of whom wants to be an adventurer, one of whom wants to stake out on his own and become a businessman, and one who is definitely attached to her adventurer childhood friend. That's Alex, Ramus, and Luna. So, Leona, what was your early impressions of the game playing for the first couple hours?
Well, to be honest, I wasn't sure about my feelings in the first couple of hours. It felt very generic in a way, very old school. I felt like maybe I'd seen all this before in various iterations. So I was particularly like, oh no, am I going to be playing 30 hours of a sort of Saturday morning anime?
That's a very fair take because sometimes this feels absolutely like a Saturday morning anime, and like the Vile Tribe dress up as like Tatsunoko villains.
Yeah, it's like they were striking like Sentai poses as they like announced themselves. So
I have no objections.
But so yeah, I was skeptical at first, but I think you warm up to these characters the longer you play the game, for sure. Say negative.
All right, and Rob, different version of the same question for you. Since you've played the Sega CD version and the PS1 version prior to this playthrough, what were your impressions of the beginning of the game? Like, also going against your memories of previous playthroughs?
Like this is like the most basic RPG story, but it is pulled off with a level of like I guess panache is cliche, but panache and characterization that was largely absent from the genre when it debuted in '92. Obviously, it's it doesn't quite stand out as much now in 2018 when you expect decent characterization and a gripping plot. And this is I think I am trading a bit on nostalgia because I was thinking about like if this came out now as a new game, I probably wouldn't have a great deal of time for the concept because I mean Alex is he wants to be a hero for a hero's sake. And Dragon Master Dine, what's so great about him? Anyway, it's all sort of given to you as a given.
It's all telling and not showing, yeah.
Yeah, you really need to come into it with goodwill. One of the interesting things, I always forget that it's only the Sega CD version that Alex is a silent protagonist. And he may as well be, actually.
Yeah,
he doesn't
I was
really
going to say that. Like, he speaks, but everything he says is so inconsequential that he really feels like a silent protagonist anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you can boil down to his personality to he likes Luna and he wants to be a good guy. That's about it.
That's interesting that he was a silent protagonist, because I was going to bring that up, but I've never played the Sega CD version. I'm also playing the PlayStation 1 version.
He has one line in the Sega CD version. He screams "Luna" at the climax, and I guess it's supposed to be like a big dramatic moment, but it just kind of feels weird. I like Null a lot. Null, the snarky fourth party member, flying cat.
How rude of me to neglect to mention.
How dare you?
Yeah,
sorry. I like Ramus. Ramus is pretty annoying, but he's got this very like kind of Boy Scout outfit and.
It is
something about that design that I like.
I like him as an excitable friend who realizes early on that he's not cut out for adventuring. Oh, excuse me.
Yeah.
I can't say cut out, apparently.
And it's really not.
It is sort of amusing to, like, when you go back to his new shop, they have the the excited party music play when you come in. He's doing just fine for himself, but he's I guess he's welcome at least as a as a damage sponge early on.
Doesn't he also hire like a bunny girl as like the shopkeeper?
I think his first or second move at his new business is to hire a bunny girl shopkeeper.
Who wouldn't? And also to sell starlights. So
yeah,
I approve.
And he's way closer to the goddess statue than like the magic shop in the other aisle. So it's very welcome. And I guess Ramus knows sex sells as well as anybody does. But
this fat 15-year-old dressing up women in bunny costumes run around his store. Jesus.
You do get a special item from him if you talk to him before you leave for the frontier. He sells you a rememberizer that otherwise costs, I think, 60,000 silver. So,
what does it do?
It lets you watch any cutscene that you've seen before in menu.
Not important.
Yeah, it's not important. There's
I was worried.
Yeah, there's a couple items that are semi-good that are missable, but that's not one of them.
Okay.
But, I mean, going back to comparing my memories of this game to when I'm playing it now, I think I like it about as much, but I also like sort of simply told stories with at least semi-appealing characters. Like, I'm a big fan of the Dragon Quest series and of Skies of Arcadia. It's just like you give me a turn-based game with colorful, sort of anime-styled characters that aren't overtly gross, and it's like, okay, yep, I'm into this. But I'm starting to worry that like encountering the script again, it's sort of a lot worse than I remember.
That's not their fault.
Yeah, it's awfully dated. The Working Designs localizer script has some pop culture references and some jokes in poor taste or word choice in poor taste.
Yes.
I mean, one of Nash's early equipments is a rainbow-colored bandana that's just called the Fruity Bandana. It's like, are you kidding? I was like, come on.
But like Nash is totally he's totally not.
He
might got nice hair, but he loves Mia.
Yeah, I mean, he might call that that bandana that because he's kind of a jerk, but he is the only time he is a good person is when he's trying to help Mia.
Yeah.
I think the first time I really thought, oh wow, this script is really dated, was when you go to the old hag's house. And if you talk to one of her dogs, Niall will say something along the lines like, I hope the old hag doesn't like Thai food. And I just went, wow.
Oi.
Wow.
Oh, man.
Niall, you're racist.
Yeah, the ones that shock me are the more pop culture references. Like Niall recites lyrics from Rick James's Super Freak. If you try to check out Luna's Chest of Drawers, but it feels awkward most of the time, and some of the word choice I'm not a fan of. It feels dated. Someone that really likes this game and played it 20 years ago would probably call it charming before they would call it.
It's a totally different world now. Looking back at it wouldn't. The eyes back then wouldn't see anything wrong with that.
But I mean, like Rob alluded to, sometimes it's not the localizer's fault, and definitely the game's fault. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is there any reason that Kyle has to cross-dress to lure the enemies into the center of Reza?
Oh, it's sexy, I guess.
It's like okay. I mean, I guess I'm happy for you that it worked out, but I mean, really? Like this was your plan, Kyle?
Yeah, Kyle doesn't strike me as a great strategist, if I'm honest.
Oh, okay, we're in agreement there. But yeah, the game.
One of the edges that the Xseed localization of or the release of Silver Star Harmony has is that it's got an Xseed localization, which is it tries to the sort of flippant charm still comes across, but it removes pretty much all the pop culture references and any of the sort of like racist or homophobic humor. So.
Probably for the best, I'm saying.
It's the best version of this script that I've seen, sadly encased in the worst version that I've played.
What's so wrong with it? Is it slow or something?
It's really slow. Dungeons are broken up into rooms that very slowly fade in and out, and every time you have to go, like for example in the sewers, you need to go back and forth between rooms to flip switches, and the monsters respawn every time, and you can never outrun them.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah.
I'm so glad with this game that monsters don't respawn. Like, if you beat that monster once until you leave the dungeon, it's good. It's good.
And it's not segmented into rooms. It is segmented into floors.
It's like a single screen.
But it covers a pretty large space in a single screen, which I guess is doable because I mean these sprites are not the most elaborate or data rich, I think. But it's that's a real bummer that monsters, because I mean I've exploited the lack of monster respawn quite a bit in this game when I'm going off the chess.
Sooner be playing the Sega CD version with random encounters than this one where it's like forced encounters respawning every time I have to go back a screen to flip a switch and then go back and go over a bridge. Yeah.
That sounds bad too.
That's bad.
And it's already quite a slow game. Like, a lot of backtracking happens.
Yeah. But I mean, there are some good parts to the game's, I guess, basics. You can save anywhere, which is nice in the in the PS1 version, and restoring your health with goddess statues located all over the places, and a little old school, but I appreciate it. I don't think anything about the basics of combat or gameplay seem broken. It's turn based, but characters also have run distances and attack ranges, which is only like one or two steps more complicated than a Dragon Quest game. But it's a system that I never found confusing or working against me exactly, except for maybe one or two times when if someone's totally surrounded, they get pinned, which is annoying, but that doesn't bother me that much. Leona, I mean, again, your first time playing, and I'm sure you've played a bunch of old school RPGs, even though I don't have your entire gaming catalog written in front of me or anything.
Generally, if it's turn based, and I've played it, but somehow this entire series escaped me, so it's like quite lucky that way that I get to play it for the podcast. But I haven't played this one, but I have played most JRPGs.
Your first time playing this, like, what about the basic mechanics jumped out at you, or you found, I don't know, frustrating or appealing?
Well, the most frustrating mechanic is definitely the inventory system, which can be a bit I feel like I've spent at least 5 hours in this game just managing menus.
Wait.
Because when you go to a shop and you're trying to outfit your characters with new equipment, if their like secondary inventory slot is full, you can't buy something from them. So you've got to empty their inventory to give it to Nal, go back to the store, enter the store, buy what they want, equip what they want, exit that, then sell your old equipment. It's quite tedious, and you have to do that for every single character every time.
And that secondary inventory is, I think, only maybe 6 or 8 items, so it's not.
It's small.
It fills up very quickly, and I just got used to, whenever I was in the menu, I would just dump everything to null unless I knew I really wanted a starlight in someone's inventory for for a boss battle or something. But in general, I don't think the mechanics get in my way, and if I'm not worried about MP, which is sometimes, but I'm very worried about MP.
MP is quite intensive in this game.
Yeah, it's a valuable resource, and the starlights and silverlights, the items that restore MP, are a little uncommon and a little expensive. So it's it's not that easy to deal with. And but sometimes if I knew MP wasn't going to be a factor, like I was almost back to town, or I was going to get healed in a minute, I would just turn on the AI mode, and normally that's fine. Except they'll also use items willy-nilly in AI mode. So sometimes I have had them use healing nuts when I'd rather they wouldn't.
I tried it at the beginning, but everyone was using their most powerful spell.
Oh yeah.
And I ran out of MP super fast. I was like, oh, I'm not using that again.
And yeah, an MP is a scarce resource for basically everyone except Mia, who has I don't know. I think my characters are level 33, 34 or thereabouts right now, and Mia's MP is in the low 200s, and no one else I think has above 110. Yeah. So this is an old school game. There is a little bit of a grind to it. I knew I knew one part of the area where I remembered leveling up 14 years ago, so I sort of hurtled through the game as fast as I could until I got there, and then I just gained 4 or 5 levels in one area.
In the merchant town, where the demons attack, and then you have the healing spot.
That's not a bad idea. But I think you only have Alex and Jessica in your party at that time, so I was worried about that. This is a little later in Iluk, in the research field.
Right.
In the town of goofy inventors. They give a lot of experience for that time in the game at that area, and it's very easy to pop out of there and go into the town for the goddess statue. Because it's a relatively constrained dungeon that is not separate from the town. It's just in a back door in the town. So that's where there's a lot of leveling up. But Rob, did the grind or any of the mechanics get in the way for you playing it this time? I mean, it's different if you're playing the PSP version. You probably
I had to fight so many battles.
Oh man.
Which, I guess it's okay. I mean, the first time I played this game, I was so young. I probably had no business playing JRPGs, so I remember I was very underleveled, and it made a lot of this game quite difficult. So I guess being forced to fight all the enemies, okay. But I did just feel very tired. I remember that Working Designs really were quite infamous for messing with the difficulty in their games and making the games that they localized quite a bit harder than they were intended to be.
Wow, I
for
was
example,
not aware of that. Huh.
Oh yeah, they very famously tweaked an integer in Exile Wicked Phenomenon on Turbo Duo, where they wanted to boost enemy strength by 2 points, but that caused an overrun and made every enemy have something like over 9,000 strength. That game is very nearly unfinishable. Over 9,000, indeed. Lunar 2 on Sega CD, they included a new currency, Dragon Points, where you need Dragon Points to save the game. I'm not sure what they tweaked, if anything, with their versions of Silver Star Story, but
I did not like the idea of currency required to save the game.
No, that's bad. It's just kind of a slow, awkward RPG. It felt better than its contemporaries in '92. Now it doesn't stick out so much. But that, I'm so biased against this PSP version.
Yeah, I mean, I think Leona and I lucked out. We picked the best version to play, and
Most definitely you did.
and it's this was the version that I was definitely advertised to me when I was on gaming forums learning about this game. And I also, I guess I didn't mention this before, and in the PS1 version, enemies are visible on the field, and some of them are definitely can't be avoided, especially really fast wasps
Yeah.
and whatnot.
Wasp. Yeah.
But a lot of the time, especially if the enemy has a slow walking speed, like a mushroom or something, you can kite them and avoid a lot of encounters. So it feels slightly modern in that way because that I think this was definitely from the era of random encounters and I guess specific encounters being more common than random encounters was some years after I don't know, the 97, 99 range when the PS1 versions were made. But yeah, in general, it's old school, but I have old school tolerance, so that doesn't affect me that much. There is a grind, but I sort of welcome the grind sometimes. Just throw on a podcast, whatever. I play Diablo, I play Dragon Quest, and also it has a few things like attacks with specific zones of effect and visible encounters rather than random encounters that made this game feel slightly more modern than it has any right to be, I guess. But anyway, that's enough about mechanics. Let's get back into the story and characters. It begins in a pretty vanilla manner, and then when you get to the second part of the game in the Katarina zone, where you meet the others of the four heroes of the past, and you meet Nash, Kyle, Jessica, and Mia, that feels a little bit like a world tourism kind of phase of the game to me because you're like learning more about this area's history and the biggest, most influential towns and groups in the game, and then there's a bit of a turn after you return to Berg. So, starting with you, Leona, of the four characters besides Alex and Luna, Nash, Mia, Jessica, Kyle, what are your impressions or perhaps an early favorite?
Early favorite, probably. Well, when you first meet Nash, I felt like I was in desperate need for someone who could do AOE damage.
Yeah.
So I was thankful to have Nash in my party.
Nash, you shall be casting Thunderbomb every turn for the next 8 hours.
Yes, very much that. So I liked Nash right away, and he had a personality about him where I felt like all the other characters we had so far, apart from Nal, had a sort of bland characterization. So I like Nash.
Nash is not a silent protagonist. Absolutely agreed.
No.
And you do find him in a under a basket that I think was a squirrel trap or something.
Yeah, is that ever explained? Why?
No, I think he's just clumsy.
If you check the basket, there was a banana underneath.
So he was hungry.
To catch wildlife, and yeah, he was stupid enough to fall for it.
I can believe that.
Maybe we'll save this for the second Lunar episode, but I wonder how much of this game's high stakes plot could have been avoided if you just left him in that trap.
Exactly. I mean, the game would be over in 5 hours.
well, we can get to that much later. But all right, and about what do you think of Kyle, Mia, and Jessica, Leona?
Mia, I like Mia. She's a nice girl. Not much I can say besides she's a very nice girl. Kyle is hit and miss for me. Sometimes he says things, and I just go, "Oh, I wish you didn't say that." But apart from, I like that sort of boyish attitude about him. I think he's cool. Jessica is probably my second favorite, definitely. I like that white mage, but I'll hit you with my stick sort of personality she has. And her relationship with her dad is pretty fun. So yeah, that would be my list. I would go Nash first, then Jessica, then Kyle, then Mia.
All right. I'll go next, I guess. Jessica's my favorite character. I really like her. She's and she likes Kyle, but doesn't necessarily need Kyle. And again, she's a healer that also has some toughness and physicality about her, which is also true for the healer in Lunar 2, which is also very nice. And I just like how straightforward she is, and her sort of double personality when she's around her dad is an amusing wrinkle. But yeah, so Jessica's my favorite. After that, it's probably Kyle, because I like sort of Kyle and Jessica together.
Yeah.
And I like how it would be very easy to have. Okay, let me slow down. It's very normal in an RPG to have in a hetero romance. Boy meets girl, they disagree, they fall in love, they're together by the end. But for Kyle and Jessica, we're in the middle of a relationship already before we meet either of them. And so it's like exes that separated but still like each other getting back together is a more interesting romantic vibe than boy meets girl, boy loves girl kind of situation. So I like Kyle and Jessica together. I think they're very
So the opposite of Luna and Alex then.
Yeah. Well, Luna and Alex are childhood friends, which is a totally different anime trope that we don't need to get into. But it's yeah, they're way more
since they were raised from birth together.
Yeah. So it's like, oh god.
The less we talk about that, the better.
Yeah. So it's a childhood friend, vaguely incestuous relationship, which is, I guess you can take it or leave it, I guess. But I'm like Kyle and Jessica are much more interesting than Alex and Luna to me.
Definitely.
And then Mia and Nash, I like both of them. I like Nash for his haughtiness and brashness. It's amusing, and Mia for just being very sweet and very capable, but also sometimes completely clueless. Because she does not seem aware of how much Nash likes her. She just thinks he's being nice, I think.
Yeah.
But so I like those four, but Kyle and Jessica are my favorite too. Rob, what are your impressions of the six main characters? Maybe specifically the last four.
Well, you said it really. I mean, Jessica and Kyle have always been my favorites as well. They're two strong personalities. I mean, but he's like a bit of an idiot, but a bit of like a cool playboy who's also an idiot, which isn't that unique. But Jessica, she's the group healer, but she is very much Hellmel's daughter. She is.
She deals more damage than Alex sometimes. Depending on where they are on finding whatever weapon.
Yeah, she takes no crap, and she's a beast woman. I have a lot of time for those two. I mean, you said it better than I did. So many JRPGs are preoccupied with like, will they, won't they? And Jessica and Kai are like, okay, well they did, now what?
Yep.
Which you almost never see because JRPGs seem so like they can't commit to actually portraying a romance. I don't know if that's to like so the Dojin writers can do their shipping and
leave the doors open.
Yeah. But I wonder
if Kamiket wasn't sort of fully formed at the time of Lunar, so they weren't really thinking of what would the shippers think? What will the Dojins be like for this? Which is definitely something they think of, when they're designing characters for the newest Persona game in 2018.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, I mean, it was Gainax people were involved in Lunar, so I'm sure they knew. Did they do the anime cutscenes? Did they do the anime cutscenes? It was Kuboka who did the character designs, who worked on Nadia. Who did the cutscenes of the PlayStation version?
I don't know.
Some studio, I'm sure, but like that first game didn't have cutscenes really. It just had like cut picture. Anyway, where was I going? Yeah, Kyle and Jessica are my favorites. I like Nash and his stupid attitude and his stupid hair. I remember when I was a kid, his ducktail hair was very easy to draw, and I was very bad at drawing, so I liked drawing Nash quite a bit.
I enjoy greaser hair and pompadours and things of that nature, so I like Nash's hair quite a bit as well.
And the way he spins that comb around when you meet him, what a dude. And Mia, well, she's the like nice mage girl. She's okay. She's inoffensive, but I don't have any fond memories, or I don't have many firm memories of Mia. And playing this again, it's like, that's about right. You were there.
Yeah, that's similar.
I don't hate her.
It's similar for me. I mean, I like Mia, but I mean, in the 14 intervening years before me playing it now and me playing it for the first time, I remember how much I liked Kyle and Jessica, but I couldn't remember what Mia's personality was, other than Mage Girl. And I did remember Nash for a few specific reasons that we'll probably get to in the second episode.
It's Studio Gonzo who did the cutscene.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway. Cool. But Rob, you mentioned one thing that we hadn't really gone over yet. There are Beastmen characters in this game, and I think that might be a design preference of Game Arts or some of their character artists, because there's a lot of Beast people in Grandia as well.
Yeah, and it's kind of underutilized. It's not really touched upon until Lunar Dragon Song. The less said about that, the better. Has the main thrust of that plot is like a war between the humans and the beastmen, and it's very undercooked there. But like here, it's just like I kind of wish they talked about the beastmen a little bit more. But I also like the fact that it's just like this is how it is. This is one of the races here. Everybody gets along. It's here they are.
Yeah,
I like that.
There isn't a lot of beast racism or at least any that I could detect in a major way. And living alongside flying cats and dragons and beast people just seemed to be an accepted reality of the world here. And I think Jessica, who's probably only part beast person, maybe has like a little bit of fang and some sort of war paint features that maybe that sort of indicates that she's not fully human, and even looking at the features of the fully human characters that are slightly I don't want to say savage, but like things like war paint and the way they're dressed makes me think that like human and beast person cross pollination has been a reality of this world for a long time.
Yeah.
Like even like the main character of Lunar 2, Hiro, I don't think he's a full human. Just looking at him, because he has sort of a Jessica face with more paint and more visible teeth than at least than Alex does.
Yeah, and his grandpa's adopted, isn't he?
Right. Yeah. It's an interesting design choice, having characters that don't appear to be fully human interacting with each other normally. And again, I haven't played Lunar Dragon Song mostly because of its reputation. I was aware of how disliked it was before I even had a chance to play it. But so yeah, but it's an interesting choice that Lunar makes with that. What do you think of the look of most of the cast of the game, Leona? Did you? We talked about our favorites of the main cast, but outside the main cast, was there anything that noticed you or anyone you particularly liked?
Well, can I just say that the whole Beast Fan thing totally went over my head. I thought she was just like, I'm a fangirl. I have cute fangs. Do you like my cute fangs? I thought that was like just a design choice. So
I never. Your dad?
Yeah, it's like, oh, cool.
He's a fang boy.
Design choices that I really like. Well, I think a lot of the game looks great. Like, I think I like a lot of the art style in it, and I think they put a lot of effort into it. Sometimes I feel like a dragon or two maybe have got more love than one of the other dragons. Like Quark seemed to have got the most love.
He is definitely the most screen time of the four dragons.
Yeah, he's got like moving parts, and like there's other dragons that are like, I'm a PDF image. Help me.
I don't move. I just really fade in and out.
Yes.
And I don't have a voice performer, but Quark does.
Yeah. Character wise, Kyle looks great. I really like the look of him. He's a cutie. Yeah. I think I know who I don't like. I think Galleon looks stupid. I do. I don't like his outfit, and I don't like much about Galleon, if I'm honest.
I like his silly rugby ball shaped hat.
You're entitled to your opinion.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's this sort of like he's very 90s anime villain, and I do have a fondness for the ridiculous over design.
Yeah, over-designed. Yeah, over-designed came across to me too as well. Yeah. He looks like the worst version of a Warcraft elf, and his giant armor looks like a much older version of a Final Fantasy XII judge. I think
it's bad, but it's good. It's so good, but so bad.
His post-plot twist outfit is less offensive than his pre-plot twist outfit, I'd say. If you get my drift.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure listeners know this, but Galleon is the main villain of Lunar 1. He appears to be
for some reason.
Yeah, he appears to be a good guy at first. He's one of the four heroes that saved the world 15 years earlier or 16 years earlier, and he is an official in the Magic Guild that is a very powerful organization within the Lunar world. But after you meet him and help the Magic Guild out a little bit, he accompanies you back to Berg, where you first meet the White Dragon early on in the game, and then reveals himself to be an evil sorcerer called the Magic Emperor, and he steals away the power of the White Dragon and kidnaps Luna away from the party. And after that first big turn, it was just it was just Alex, Luna, and Galleon going back to Berg. You meet. Or I should say re-meet Jessica, Nash, Mia, and Kyle one by one to assemble your full party, and then the thrust of the plot stops being Alex goes on an adventure and starts being Alex wants to become the Dragon Master to save Luna and defeat Galleon, and that's and I don't know if the tone of the plot changes because it sort of feels like the same game, but it's just at least the thrust of the plot changes.
I feel like I was definitely more invested after that point. I feel like what happened in Vane really made me feel like, oh, I can actually start really caring about this game now. I feel like stuff is happening. I feel like I've met some cool bad guys I can hate. You love to hate some bad guys. And before that, you really had no one to really say, that's my antagonist.
Indeed.
Yeah, again, I think that when you're meeting the people for the first time and just exploring the world, it feels a little bit like tourism. Like you're just going from place to place and righting minor wrongs here and there, like the
little trails-ish at first.
A little, yeah.
The way that you talk to NPCs feels very trails-ish. Like everyone kind of has something to say after every sort of plot point.
And it does, and speaking to NPCs feels more like a dialogue and less like a recitation by the NPC, which is something that the Trails series does, and that that Lunar's perhaps spiritual successor Grandia also does. It like the talking feels better and more meaningful when you're just interacting with NPCs. And but again, I'm absolutely with you, Leona. I feel much more invested in the plot once I have to rescue Luna and the party fully forms. In part because I like these main characters and like watching them interact, but also it's just the stakes are considerably higher, and having a villain, or I should say a group of villains with targets to follow makes it more interesting. We haven't talked about the Vile Tribe yet.
Oh, we need to talk about the
We do need to talk about the Vile Tribe.
Oh yeah. Okay, so we have Royce, who is a fortune teller who seems to know Nash, and Facia, who was a priestess that was in the same church where Jessica is an on-again, off-again student, and then Zenobia, who for a while was disguised as the leader of the Magic Guild until she's exposed by the party, who's helping out Mia, trying to rescue Mia's mother, who's the real head of the Magic Guild. Those three, oh man, they look like they're straight out of Slayers or some 90s ass anime.
Oh, I have got so much time for them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're great. I love them. I love them all.
Yeah. I could stand to have more of them, honestly, because when a couple times they'll be traipsing through some area in the game, and then suddenly one of them will thunder down, summon some monsters, and then leave. It's like, oh man, come on, hang out longer. I want this interaction to be more meaningful.
And every time they show up, it's like on this episode of Lunar, and then they summon a bad guy. You'll never defeat my monsters. And then you beat them, and like, oh, curses, you got me, and then they disappear until the next time.
So you say that you want more of them. Let me tell you, they are not in the Sega CD version.
Right. I think I read that. Please correct me if I'm wrong. That Zenobia is in the Sega CD version, but her role is reduced, and Royce and Facia don't even exist in that one.
Yeah, those two don't exist. Zenobia is in it as the leader of the Vile Tribe, but the Vile Tribe seems to just be her.
Wow.
And she just appears not very frequently, near the end of the game she kind of shows up and you beat her, and that's about it. I love how much they expanded all of this, and Royce is great, Facia is pretty great too, but those three, they are a much needed shot in the arm that the remakes got.
Yeah, I think Facia is probably my favorite of them because I like the evil plot of taking over the world's sort of theological power, the church, and Jessica escaping the curse because she was playing hooky for a week or something. It's like oh, everyone seems to love this Facia woman who's the head of the church, and when you meet Jessica for the first time and mention Facia to her, she goes, "Who the hell is Facia? I've been at that church for a year. Who do you mean?" So I don't know, that plot at least seemed more interesting to me than just the vague evil of what the Vile Tribe represents. So it's I like all three of them, and it's honestly a little disappointing to me that they aren't in the original version. Those poor Sega CD players were deprived.
Yeah, I mean, I'd quite like to share one of the main. I mean, there's so many differences between the versions, but the big thing.
Oh, please, hit us with anything you got.
Mm-hmm. When you go off to Saith at the end of Caldor Isle to set sail to Maribia, and I remember it. I think it was kind of like engineered to be a big surprise when the ship is sailing and Luna jumps off the pier onto the ship to come with you. She does not come with you on Sega CD.
What?
Yeah,
that's cute.
Stays home.
That's one of the most memorable scenes in because okay.
I know. I remember my mouth was agape when I played the PlayStation 1 version for the first time. But
I mean, all right, I'm backing it up a little bit.
I want to hear both your reactions.
I just don't even see how the game could function without Luna being in the party after that point.
It kind of doesn't.
Yeah, no, Luna needs to come.
So Luna doesn't come. Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Luna coming with you to Maribia is crucial to the game because, I mean, it brings Alex and Luna closer. I think Alex sort of awakens to his feelings for Luna more over the course of over the course of their adventure in the Katarina Zone before Luna's kidnapped, and communicates to the player how close they are and how important they are to each other, which which adds to the stakes of rescuing Luna for the rest of the game after she's captured. Plus, you get that delightful musical scene on the boat.
Yeah.
Which is extremely Disney movie. It's like oh no, the heroine's alone with her feelings, so she has to sing those feelings. Which is is a bit of a cliche, but a cliche that I absolutely welcome because the song is adorable. But that to have that not in the Sega CD version at all, first has me wonder who the hell is like healing you and helping you out for that whole couple hours after
lots of herbs. Lots of green herbs.
Oh, great. Awesome.
So you head into Maribia. It's just you, Null, and Ramus, and you get scammed by Dross. The diamond gets stolen, and before you head into the sewers, you have to stop by Black Rose Street, where instead of Royce, it's just like a nameless fortune teller who teaches Alex fire magic. And when you head down into the sewers, the water lizard or the water dragon boss there, because they're submerged in water and you're on a platform, they can't be hit by melee attacks. So Ramus is just like cowering in the corner, and you're just flinging fireballs and healing yourself and using starlights, and it takes a really, really long time.
That sucks.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it is rough.
I want no part of that.
Really rough.
I'm so glad I played the PS1 version.
and then you eventually just head back with Galleon to Berg, and he kidnaps Luna for no reason. She spends like most of that game absent. It's bizarre.
And also, it's clear that the Vile Tribe are kidnapping singers because they know that the person that they need for their evil plot is a singer. Like when you're on your adventure with Luna, I mean, it's made clear that Luna is a brilliant singer.
Yeah,
and also
she heals through singing, doesn't she? So she's always laying out those pipes.
Yeah, but you're also hearing about singers disappearing, and when you're on the, doing your task in Lan, the swamp dungeon with the frog boss at the end, you meet a Lan's resident singer at the beginning of the quest, and then she's mysteriously disappeared at the end. It's planting seeds and doing foreshadowing for what the Vile Tribe's doing, and to have Luna not around for that seems backwards. I think it's an important part of the early part of the first third or so of the game, and it's bizarre to me that Luna's not around in the Sega CD version.
I guess like they just wanted to damsel her earlier, or they just didn't know what to do with her. It's bizarre. Maybe they just wanted to have a scene where like you just like watch her recede, standing on the port as the ship goes away. I mean, it's effective, but also
like that's a nice scene, but it's not as dramatic or awesome as her leaping onto the boat, and again,
not at all.
Not having that musical number on the boat.
Well, I think playing that remake after that first game and it really worked. It really subverted my expectations as to what was going to happen next, and showed you, okay, this is where this game diverges, and this is where it becomes something entirely different. So you're not playing a prettier version of the same game,
I think it's amazing the differences between the Sega CD version. I did look at some like pictures. I watched a couple of YouTube videos, and it looks like an entirely different game.
I didn't remember it looking quite as rough as it does. I remember it looking beautiful.
It looks of its age.
Yeah, that's fine.
But, like for Sega CD, I think it looks great.
Yeah. The music was really good as well. The music is completely different.
Yeah.
I think the soundtrack is nice. It's a little repetitive. I think the full soundtrack is only about 25 songs.
Yeah.
But none of it is unwelcome, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Except for that one point in the second half of the game where there's a town with deliberately crappy music.
Yeah.
We can talk about that a little later.
Why didn't the Veil tribe kidnap the mountain?
That's like some Hanuman and the Ramayana kind of crap.
Exactly. What if that was a plot twist?
So, I guess going back to the main plot of the game, the sort of mission to become the Dragon Master becomes one and the same with a mission to rescue Luna, and Alex has to visit each of the 4 dragons and obtain their blessing and their power, so to speak, starting with the white dragon right outside of his hometown, who gives him a ring and some dragon wings that allow you to fast travel. Or I should say the mysterious swordsman Laika, who's definitely not related to any of this at all, gives you the magic dragon wings.
Yeah, just a very nice guy.
Yeah, he's just a really nice guy that's preposterously strong. Yeah.
Some dude with a beard.
Mm-hmm.
No way plot related.
He has a beard and a beret that must completely disguise what he looked like as a younger man. But yeah, we won't talk about him. And then sort of systematically you meet the red dragon, then blue dragon, then black dragon, and sort of I would say the middle third of the game. And the stuff around meeting the red dragon, you visit what I would say are 3 very specifically weird towns, or maybe, I guess 4 specifically weird towns. You have Reza, the thieves' town, and Nanza, which is the sort of mercenary outpost that Kyle runs, and then I want to say the sort of backwoods town of Mariad, where everyone speaks in a peculiar accent and hits on Jessica and Mia very rudely.
Yeah.
Uncomfortable.
And then you have Iluk, the town of eccentric inventors whose experiments have gone wild in the gated garden at the rear of the town. So it's I don't know exactly why they set it up this way, but the first quarter of the game is sort of, these are normal RPG towns, and then the next set of them are just a bunch of weirdos, each for different reasons.
Jobs. Like, this is this town's job, and then you go 5 feet, and then it's like, and we've got a different job, and we're all about that job. Like, everyone here is a thief. Everyone here is an inventor.
Yeah, and we're going to take away your dragon wings, so you can't fast travel between these towns. Now you have to hoof it between each of them until you become a member of the Thieves Guild, and the thief has to give them back to you.
Which I don't think he should have. He did rob us before we entered the contract. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying maybe they should have just beaten him up instead of have to go through this whole thief and rigmarole. And the dungeon to become a member of the Thieves Guild is its own weird thing. You have to play some choose your own adventure for the password to each floor.
Yeah,
and I have to say I like the wrong answers better than the right answers in every case.
Yeah, I think I accidentally picked the right answer every time, so I don't know. I mean, I did get through it, but you probably get through it even if you pick the wrong answer. So I don't know.
It doesn't change anything. But one thing I thought was interesting: the final task in Damon Spire to join the Thieves Guild and get your dragon wings back is you have to make statue of something out
Right.
of clay, and the like the right answer is for Alex to make the statue and have it be of Luna, but everyone else in your party mistakes her for the goddess that everyone in the world of Lunar worships. But the,
then
but why?
Then Niall
how,
looks
right?
right at the screen and he goes something like, "Everyone thinks Luna looks like the goddess." Looks to screen. I wonder why that is. Wink. At least that's what I think in my head.
Yeah, there's like the moment where a cast member of The Office just like looks exasperatedly into the camera. But the
Get
yeah,
it?
but the wrong answers there are like Kyle makes a crowbar, and Jessica makes a badly formed necklace. It's like, really, these are just like head scratching jokes. But again, often the wrong answers
like
are more
a macaroni frame.
yeah, like the wrong answers are more fun than the right answers for all of them, especially when that doofus Kyle has to say something.
Yeah.
But it ends up okay. They join the Thieves Guild, then you can backtrack to every town and open up red chests, and then you can take a hot air balloon into a volcano, which seems like a bad idea.
And it is.
And I know this happens in a couple places in the game, but I found myself rather strapped for health and MP in that volcano dungeon. It was one of the earlier ones I struggled with. Starting with you, Leona, I'm picking on you because it's your first time playing, and I apologize in advance. But like, what do you think of the difficulty spikes and grind in this game? We went into it a little bit, and how, especially with how it's different in the different versions of the game. But were there any boss fights or any dungeons that you particularly struggled with? Because personally, I had a little bit of trouble in that volcano. Both just having enough MP to get to the end. And also it took me 2 or 3 tries to beat the boss, because I don't know, the first couple times those dogs just did all hitting attacks multiple times in a row, and it went badly. But so, do you notice any difficulty spikes or spots where you struggled?
I definitely I feel like the game comes out the bat you're gonna struggle all the time, and some bosses are weirdly easy. I won't get into it, but there's a few later bosses that die really pretty much instantly. But I feel like the slime boss was really a wake up call for me. I was like,
oh, the
what
one on the ship early on.
Yeah, it's pretty tough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's recovering all the damage I do to him, and so you really had to even though bosses level up with you, you kind of need some skills. I think I needed to get vigor, which is a skill that powers up.
Yeah.
The attack of Alex, which you kind of use, at least I used all the time for every boss battle. That was my strategy.
Yeah,
to power up Alex.
Then... Kyle has a similar one, and I think that those 2 skills in Alex and Kyle are absolute requirements.
Exactly. Well, that's what I feel like I've relied on for nearly every boss, just to get through them. And the dungeons themselves were exercises in attrition. If you did not have enough starlights or healing items, even though you almost always have a white mage in your party to heal you, you still need all these healing items anyway. It was odd. I've never played a game quite like that, where you just need a constant amount of healing. So I feel like the biggest spike for me was probably the volcano, definitely, because it's quite a long sort of trek through that dungeon, and enemies get progressively harder for each floor. So yeah.
I'm with you. I think that it probably depends on your own pace of leveling up and grinding. If you did a bunch of grinding in one specific area, then the following area might be easier than usual. But the difficulty seemed to be a little uneven for me. I thought the Red Dragon Cave and the Blue Dragon Cave were fairly challenging based on how long they were and how many encounters are hard to miss and how strong the enemies are in them, even though the Blue Dragon Cave doesn't have a final boss, which was interesting. But that cave in the town right before the Blue Dragon Cave was almost laughably easy. I felt like I didn't even have to conserve my MP. And so I found the difficulty reasonable. It was I don't think it was ever that unfair. Excuse me.
No, I wouldn't say it was unfair. It's you just have to prepare for a lot of these bosses. You can't go into most of these bosses with no items and low MP. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, for the handful of times I died in this playthrough, every time it was okay, I need to just do what I did before, but make sure to load my character inventory with more starlights or more healing nuts.
Yeah.
and then it would be fine. And I think again, like against those bronze dogs, the first time I played them, I think they hit me with like 6 straight full screen attacks. That just seemed like spectacularly bad luck.
That is bad luck.
Yeah, but it was. But again, being able to save anywhere and always having and Jessica's a capable healer, and I think items aren't prohibitively difficult to get. So I think Lunar 1 plays fair, but there is some unusual difficulty spikes that I wasn't always expecting.
Mm-hmm.
So that gets us roughly through the first half of the game. But before we close out, starting with you, Leona, again, I'm picking on you because this is your first time playing. Now, I asked you for your early impressions a while ago. What's your overall impression now that you're a bit past halfway? What questions or things are you more interested in seeing in the second half? And what's your overall impression after playing? I'm guessing probably about a dozen hours in.
Yeah, it's about a dozen hours. Overall impressions as I've grown to like the game more and more as I play it. I'm excited to see characters grow and interact with each other. I think like a lot of these characters interact a lot with each other, so that's really what's driving me forward as the characters and not so much the plot, but the characters definitely. I'm enjoying it. I am. I wasn't sure I'd be able to like. I thought I was honestly going to come on here and I was like, I hate it. I hate everything about this game, but I don't. I really do like a lot of this game, and it's like, it's a little dated, it's a little 90s, a little anime.
Oh yeah.
But I'm having fun with it. So I've just reached the end of disc 1, but apparently disc 2 isn't very long to begin with.
I mean, from my memory and from also glancing at some table of contents in a FAQ earlier this week, I think Disc 2 is just a lot of resolution, and there's only 1 or 2 towns, but there's like 5 or 6 dungeons in a row to crash through, and it definitely gets, resolves what plot threads there are. But Rob, again, you're playing the PSP version for the first time and revisiting the story for not the first time. But what's your overall feeling about it now? If you're roughly at the halfway point,
I'm still getting the warm fuzzies because this was a pivotal RPG in my childhood. So no matter what form it takes, I'm always going to have that fondness for this. This unique sort of, Northern Europe cold feeling world. And it's, Quark, I was one of like the first friendly dragons I remember encountering in a game.
It is nice that all 4 dragons are basically rooting for you.
Kind of, yeah, basically.
Blue is the best one. Sorry, I just had to get it in.
The blue dragon is the most charming of the 4, I'd agree.
For sure. There's certain things that I don't know. Like I mentioned how difficult the going through the sewers with just Alex and Ramus was, but like I think even the PlayStation 1 version doesn't have encounters on the world map. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, nothing on the world map, and they're visible on screen in dungeons, and again can be avoided a lot of the time.
Yeah. The PSP version cribs from Lunar Legend on Game Boy Advance in that there is no world map. There's just like a map select screen where it shows you the continent that you're on and you pick the location to go to.
Well, that's a little less fun.
Yeah, it is. Especially because I remember like really beating my head against the boss of the sewers. Who, by the way, that's the first boss in the Sega CD version. There's no slime. There's none of that. So I remember like just heading out into the overworld and just like walking as far as I could and like seeing Vane fly by overhead and being like, oh wow, what's that? That's something that I can't go to. That looks great.
It's a cool world map. It's it feels crafted in a way that is that makes like seeing new areas fun and rewarding. I think that some amount of the charm would be taken away if it's just a visible menu like Digital Devil Saga or something.
So not being able to do that, like I couldn't even leave town to look at the map once the diamond gets stolen. So that was that was a bit of a bummer. And then once you do see that map, Vane is tiny and you barely notice it. It's not like it just, zooming past your head. But where was I going with this? Differences, similarities. I still like it a lot. I'm looking forward to seeing it through and seeing. Because I never did beat that PlayStation 1 version because I'd only rented it for a weekend and I got pretty far, but I didn't see how the ending diverges. So I do look forward to seeing that. I should mention that the PSP version adds an intro that is exclusive to this version that adds absolutely nothing at all. If you want to see the four heroes do their final battle against some faceless final boss in a quest that you don't see, I mean, that's
sounds like a trip to YouTube.
Yeah. I mean, it. I don't even do that.
Oh wow. Okay.
But there's just something earnest and wholesome about Game Art's very brief oeuvre of RPGs that kind of evokes this. I guess it is a nostalgia, but I don't know. It kind of feels like a hug in a way, and I have time for that.
Right. My feelings are similar to yours, Rob. Even though I think I'm playing the most likable version of the game currently. It had been, I think, 14 years since I've played this, so it was an appropriate amount of time that I'm re-remembering and rediscovering things about the game that I liked before, but feel it's been long enough that they feel at least a little new. And I still like the game for the same reasons I did 14 years ago. Like it has an old school charm and is, mostly good versions of these old school mechanics, but with characters I really like and a story that it's at least interesting enough for me to be compelled to play it through to the end. And I'm looking forward to playing the second half. I'm stuck in the Talon Mines right now early on in disc 2, but I'm sure I'll get to the end before we record again in a week or so. I liked this game 14 years ago, and I'm liking it for a lot of the same reasons. But again, I love Dragon Quest and Skies of Arcadia and similar turn-based games with earnestness and wholesomeness to them. That's just a kind of game that really appeals to me. And whether the execution is excellent, like Skies of Arcadia, or even imperfect, like in that DS game Nostalgia, that kind of game appeals to me.
Nostalgia had a lot of problems, but I also kind of liked it.
Yeah, no, I kind of like it. Even though I don't think it's one of the best Nintendo DS games, but that
not
kind,
at all. But something about it.
About nostalgia. Okay.
but that kind of game appeals to me. At least has a built-in appeal for me, and Lunar is a very excellent version of one of those old school RPGs. So I've had a lot of fun replaying it for the podcast, but. I think that's about enough Lunar discussion for this episode. Thank you, Leona, and thank you, Rob, for joining me on this recording. And thank you, listeners, for sticking with us for an hour plus talking about Lunar. Next week, we're going to continue our discussion of Lunar 1: The Silver Star, all about about endgame stuff, about betrayals and plot twists that happen right around the time that you change discs on the PS1 version. We have a lot to talk about still. And after that episode, we're going to do 2 episodes on Lunar 2: Eternal Blue. Or I think it's just Lunar Eternal Blue on Sega CD. And we might have a slightly different panel for those episodes, but I'm looking forward to getting to Lunar 2 immediately after finishing Lunar 1. But beyond that,
I wish I had time to join you guys for that. That would be a joy. But
you think you're going to pass on? You're going to pass on the Lunar 2 episodes?
Yeah, I just don't think I'll have the time to play through it. It's a much longer game.
Yeah, it's considerably longer. I think mechanically there's a lot of improvements that they make, but I'm not sure I like all of the characters as much. It's a little less romantic and has more personality to some characters.
You know what? Don't count me out just yet, because I'm thinking about it now.
All right. Well, let's say I don't like any of the Lunar 2 characters as much as Kyle or Jessica, but I absolutely adore Ronfar and Jean and Leo. But not for their relationships, more so just for who they are in general. Plus, I have a penchant for mysterious masked heroes, so of course.
I'm intrigued. I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'm intrigued.
Oh, Lunar 2 is good. I think I like Lunar 2 a little more than 1, but again, it's been so long since I've played Lunar 2 that I don't remember everything about it. So that will be fun to revisit in the next few weeks. And but beyond Lunar 2, we don't really have anything planned yet. We're even recording this pretty early because we need to give ourselves time to play these old RPGs. But listeners, if you want to reach us directly, the best way to do so is via email. Use retro@rpgfan.com. I read everything that is directed to us and will respond if you send something, so please send us emails, whether it's a comment or a suggestion or a criticism. I will read it and respond. Also, RPG Fan has forums. They have a Twitter. We have Facebook. We have Discord, for which Leona is one of the moderators. We have an Instagram curated by our delightful social media coordinator, Stephanie. And there's a second podcast, Random Encounter, which is artfully hosted by Derek Heemsbergen most of the time, except when we had a few special episodes like the Ladies' Night episode a few weeks ago, hosted by Stephanie and Caitlin and a few other ladies of RPG Fan. And you can find all of those things linked on rpgfansfront.com's front page. If you want to review us on iTunes or Google Play, please do so. We appreciate any feedback that you have for us. And before we sign off permanently, starting with you, Rob, how can listeners reach you?
What do you mean permanently? Where are we going after this? I am on Twitter.
That language
Bob.
That language is more dire than I meant it to be. I apologize, Rob.
It was a little ominous, Magic Emperor Sollosi.
Send in the clowns.
He's sending us to the grindery. I'm on Twitter at MissanthroBob. That's where you can find me. Hit me up.
And Rob, I apologize if this is self-serving, but you also have two very fine podcasts that you handle on misanthroplay.com. I'm sorry, on misanthropop.com. I'm sorry.
I don't know if that's self-serving. It's just that's very, very generous of you to give me a shout out.
You're allowed to plug your stuff on the podcast. Come on.
I never know. Now, look, I do two podcasts. One is on hiatus. It's called Misanthroplay. You may have heard it. It's on Twitter at Misanthroplay. And I have also launched a new podcast a couple of weeks ago called Misspent Youth. You can find it at the same place. Mike and I recorded an episode together, which will be going live probably around the time you hear this. So have a peek for that at misanthropop.com.
I have not heard the podcast I was on yet, but I have listened to all the episodes of Misspent Youth released at the time of recording this, and it is excellent and worth a listen, people. It's Rob does.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Rob does very good work on his two podcasts. And Leona, same question to you. Where can listeners find you?
You can usually find me on the RPG Fan Discord server, of which I am a moderator. You can find a link to that on the front page of RPG Fan. Mm-hmm. My username is StarMongoose, all one word. I don't know what it means either.
Well, I assume you're some kind of extraterrestrial mustelid, but
galactic mongoose. It's simple, really. I don't know why people ask me that.
Wait, are mongooses mustelids like in the weasel family, or are they something more exotic? I'm not sure.
They're crustaceans, aren't they?
Crustaceans. Okay, that was not in my top 10 guesses. But is it a vile crustacean like the one you fight in Vane?
Oh, right.
That definitely killed me once. And I had forgotten to save, so I had to do the whole Galleon White Dragon thing again. That was great.
Oh no.
They're herpestidae, folks. They're related to the meerkat.
Okay. So they're not mustelids like weasels or otters. Okay.
And definitely not crustaceans. Okay.
Got it.
But yeah, you can find me on Discord or my Twitter, which is also StarMongoose.
Thank you so much for joining me, Leona, for your first podcast. I very much enjoyed having you, and especially, again, this is selfish of me, I especially enjoyed having your Scottish accent join us as well.
Oh, thank you. Did it come through?
Just a little bit. And listeners, if you want to find me, I am Monsoon on RPG Fans forums that I don't use anymore. I'm Monsoon Mike on Discord, which I visit more occasionally than the forums. And I am at The Real Monsoon on Twitter, unless I am getting weird about Japanese superheroes, in which case I am at Evoker for Dogs.
Hell yeah.
So, listeners, we have more Lunar for you the rest of this month, so please look forward to that. Thank you, good night, and good luck. Check this out.
Check this out. Boom!
Wishing on a dream that seems far off, hoping it will come today. Into the starlit night. foolish dreamers turn their gaze, waiting on a shooting star. But what if that star is not to come? Will their dreams fade to nothing when the horizon darkens most? We all need to believe there is hope. Is an angel watching closely over me? Can there be a guiding light I've yet to see? I know my heart should guide me, but there's a hole within my soul. What will fill this emptiness inside of me? Am I to be satisfied without knowing? I wish then for a chance to see now all I need desperately is my star to come.